Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moodie.
And I'm Wajahat.
And folks, guess what? We're not censored, but everyone else seems to be. We are living in a time, Waj, where it seems as if over the last close to a decade of Trumpism, corporate mainstream media has learned absolutely nothing. And with the news that came out over the weekend that our friend, Joy-Ann Reid, staple on MSNBC, has been on MSNBC well over a decade, has been canceled. And it was leaked to the New York Times that her show is being canceled. She was the only Black woman with a primetime show ever, not only on MSNBC but ever on cable news. She was the first. And what seems to me, and we'll get into this, is that MSNBC has a Black woman problem and they have a people of color problem. Your thoughts?
Let's do the numbers. That's a bold claim. So let's see if facts back it up. There's Joy-Ann Reid at 7 p.m. Before that, there was no other Black woman. There was Don Lemon. He got let go because he pissed off Trump. Remember that? Laura Coates is now taking his spot, but they don't really blow her up, even though she's awesome. But she's like stuck at the 11 p.m. hour. There was Melissa Harris Perry. I remember her. Her show got let go.
On the weekends, though.
Yeah, on the weekends, because she's like, I don't want to be treated like a mammy. Treat me with respect. And then later on, we found out from behind the scenes that she was disrespected and her team was disrespected. All right, so MHP gone. Joy-Ann Reid gone. I also remember there was Tamron and Al Roker. And Tamron and Al Roker actually had a good show where they co-hosted. And then what MSNBC did is it brought in, NBC. NBC brought in Megyn Kelly. From CNN. No, excuse me, from Fox. They gave her a record $69 million contract. She stank up the joint. She had an amazing contract. So she took all the money, $69 million, if I remember correctly. The show lasted less than a year. And now she's kissing up to Trump and is worse than the most MAGA people ever. So that's 3. And I think there's one more. Who am I forgetting?
Oh, let's just run down some of the list, shall we? Because Ellie Mistel, and I, and many other people posted literally the same things at the same time. Now, I want to give folks a little bit of background. I've been doing cable news for well over a decade. And there was a time when I was trying to dress the right way, speak the right way, kiss the right asses, do the right things to present myself as being good enough to be granted contributorship, right? Contributorship is that illustrious title that comes with a salary so that when you're going on air, you are being paid for your time. Now, what MSNBC, what I believe, and this is my experience, has cornered the market in, has been their ability to get as many Black and brown people on air for fucking free, as if we can eat likes and shares on social media. So when folks like to say that MSNBC is the progressive, right, outlet, I want you to understand that from 5 a.m., which is the pre-morning Joe show, until 7 p.m., there are only white people on air. Any of the, and I mean the white anchors that helm the shows, it is all white from 5 a.m. until 7. Then you had Joy, and then it went back to being white from 8 p.m. until 11 p.m.
And all the darkies were put on weekend shows. And if you don't,
every single one.
And if you don't know anything about ratings, Sunday maybe get away with it news, but Saturday and Sunday is like, especially Saturday and Friday night, it's like friggin' like it's like death hour, right? Because everyone's at home, everyone's spending time with their family. Sunday, you might get like those Sunday morning shows, right, where you break some news, but it was not lost on any of us in the last year or so that Ali Velshi, Weekend, right?
Jonathan Capehart,
Weekend.
Tiffany Cross before she was fired, Weekend.
How about Katie?
Katie Fang, Weekend. These are, so you're talking black man, Asian woman, right? Everybody that
Alicia Menendez,
Weekend. Simone Sanders, Weekend. The Weekend was the place where is the place where MSNBC decided to jam in all their people of color programming. And then the people who you would see sprinkled in throughout that daytime, primetime spacing on air, unless you saw them say MSNBC contributor, you, Wajahat, Ellie, myself, Dr. Christina Greer, so many people, Basil Smikle, like I can name so many black and brown people were all doing television. Kurt Bardella for free, right?
Actually,
all in the hope that we would be seen as good enough by the powers that be to land a contract.
Ellie Mistal, and I'm glad we brought up his tweet. I've done this tweet maybe about 4 times in the past 3 years, where every couple of months on my own, without prompting from Ellie, and I've done this for several people of color, I don't want anything in return, I tweet out, maybe it's time for Ellie to get paid by MSNBC. And each time I've done that tweet, it goes small viral, and there's always shock. And people are like, what do you mean? Isn't he paid? I see him all the time. He is my favorite contributor. And then Ellie once in a while then comes out and says, yes, that would be nice. Or he messages me privately and says, that was very kind of you. They do not pay Ellie Mistal. Ellie Mistal is on there nonstop. He crushes it on MSNBC, on CNN. They have never, ever paid him. Not once. They do not pay Kurt Bardella. They never paid Danielle Moodie. And because we're spilling the beans, why not? Let's spill some tea. I've got some tea here. The new president of MSNBC is Rebecca Cutler. Rebecca Cutler used to be the right-hand woman of who's the guy at CNN? I'm forgetting. They all blend in. The guy who left, who helped make Trump has like almost little to zero. Is it Zucker?
Jeff. Wasn't
Zucker, his, right?
Yeah, Jeff Zucker.
So she was quote my boss of talent. I remember I was doing the okey doke like Danielle was saying. This was right before COVID, a few months before COVID, a few months before my daughter got cancer. And I remember MSNBC used to bring me on the weekends to help launch David Gura's morning show. So I used to take the Amtrak, leave my family, go like literally almost every week or every other week to New York for free. Yep. I used to crush it. They used to really love me. Then CNN kind of discovered me on the weekend. So CNN used to have me. Then Glenn Kirshner, who's great, he says, listen, man, they made me play this game. What you got to do is do both MSNBC and CNN. And then a producer says, that guy's awesome. Why is he on CNN? He should be on MSNBC. And you play them against each other. And then one of them offers you a contract. So I was on TV at least once or twice a week, Danielle, doing what you said. And I only did it for the sake of my family. Otherwise, I never would have done it, right? Like this was, you're independent. I got 2 kids. My wife was about to tell me she's pregnant with a 3rd kid. I'm breaking myself. My wife goes, you've been doing this now 6 months. I see you crushing yourself. Waj, if they don't give you a contract in the next month, it's done. I said, you know what? You're right. I get a meeting with Rebecca Cutler. I go to CNN. Rebecca Cutler's, okay, so she's sitting where you are, right, Danielle? Behind me, where I'm sitting, are like 17 screens. And this is her as she's talking to me. And I think this wasn't her trying to be rude. It's just how it is. She goes, oh, Danielle, thank you for coming. So, yeah, you're fantastic talent. So she gives me the boilerplate, and this was the boilerplate.
Yep.
You are great. Keep doing it. You know, there's a lot of talent there. And then I was like Morgan Freeman in Shawshank, but like old Morgan Freeman. Remember after he gets rejected twice, the third time he's like, Sonny, I don't care what you say. You stamp that paper, right? So something came over me. I'm like, listen, Rebecca, let's just cut the BS. Just tell it to me straight. Like, this is never gonna happen, right? And then all of a sudden she got literally like rose to sleep. She like went off the programming, like she tells everyone was really interesting. Then she was like, she's like, and then she looked me right in the eye. She goes, listen, what we do is we poach certain experts. We keep them. So there's an aviation expert that we have for that once or twice a year airplane crash. We get them and we sit on them so it doesn't go to MSNBC. When it comes to commentators like you, you're really good. But essentially what she was saying, dime a dozen. So she says, listen, keep at it. Maybe it'll happen. All right. I have that meeting. I'm like, I'm done. Forget it. A week later, Brenton Tarrant kills 50 people in New Zealand. The Christchurch massacre, leaves behind that manifesto, the Great Replacement.
Yeah.
I've done research on these people for 12 years. I do 10 tweets. I was up late at night. Those tweets go viral. I get them next day. I get a call at 6 a.m. from Jim Sciutto. I'm like, how the hell did you get my number, bro? He goes, come on my show at 8:30. Please talk about it. I go on his show. I do 6 minutes. Jim Sciutto runs across the hall and says, you made me look so good. I think the name is Zucker. Zucker brought up your tweets in the morning and said, get this guy on TV. And I said, I have him. I go back and forth the next 3 days because everyone says, oh, this guy can connect the dots. On Monday, 3 days later, Rebecca Cutler, who a week and a half before said, I'll keep trying. Call me. Why aren't you calling me? Zucker wants you. Give me the contract. And that's how I got on CNN. And then when I was on CNN for a year, Danielle, Cutler called me 4 times because Republicans and conservatives narked on me 4 times. And the 4 calls I got was be nicer to the conservatives. This is warning 1, warning 2, warning 3. Sorry if I went on too long, but that's just how the omelet is made.
I also want folks to understand and take from your story, and mine is that there are people, and look, Waj and I, we're children of immigrants. We don't toot our own horns. We just keep our heads down, keep grinding, keep doing the good work, and hope, somebody notices you at some point in time. And we say that to say there are a bevy of mediocre, underqualified, lackluster, milquetoast white folks who are Republicans, former Republicans, who get deals as soon as they walk out of a member's office, as soon as they do their first hit on MSNBC or CNN, and they throw money at them and they offer absolutely nothing to the narrative about this country, about this administration, nothing.
Romney, they offered her $300,000.
Yeah.
That was last year.
So,
the former head of the RNC who promoted lies and the January 6th conspiracy.
And the only reason she didn't get the job is because of the audience being like, are you fucking kidding me that you were going to offer that woman $350,000 to lie to us every single day? And it was the only reason that it was pulled. And then voila, she ends up in the governorship.
And you know what they told Ellie and Kurt? We have no money for you.
We have no money for you. So I want to bring up one last thing before we continue to go, because here's another post, right? Which lists out all of the Black women that were fired over the course of time. And there are names that are missing from here.
Oh, yeah, Tiffany. I forgot Tiffany. There you
Cross, go. Right. And there are other names that are missing, but says Melissa Harris Perry, Tiffany Cross, Tamron Hall, Joy Reid. I will add Zerlina Maxwell to that list.
There you
all
go.
Fired. What do they have in common? Joy was also one of the very few voices in mainstream media defending Palestinians against Israeli barbarism. And, folks, here's the thing. Mehdi Hassan on MSNBC on the weekends. And then he was on digital because can't have him brilliant author, New York Times bestselling, like out on a regular channel. So they have him on digital. Move Mehdi to weekends, right? Because that's where you park Black people and people of color on MSNBC. And then he starts speaking truth to power with regard to the Palestinians. And guess what? Republicans outraged, call MSNBC. MSNBC cancels his show, says that it's not doing well, and but you can stay on as like a floater, right? And we'll have you on other people's shows. And what does Mehdi say? Thanks, no thanks, deuces. I'll start my own shit.
And also, because I keep receipts, because Mehdi was presenting both sides, Jonathan Greenblatt of ADL and a few other folks started saying, I don't know if it's MSNBC or Hamas propaganda and talking points. And the three people that they signal out, want to take a guess, were the three Muslims: Ayman, who's Palestinian, Ali Velshi, who's not, and Mehdi Hassan. And one of them had to go. And if you look at the Semaphore report on this, and there's a few other people reporting on the DL, I know none of them can talk about it. That's why they were let go, because of Palestine. Who else? Joy, the very few people who was actually in a way pro-Palestinian, pro-justice, anti-genocide, let's be honest. And then also
yeah,
Alex Wagner, who was also now let go, or she's floating now. Rachel's come back, right? And who's going to get also? So Rachel Maddow's come back all 5 days because they need the ratings. Who's going to get Joy's position? Most likely Jen Psaki.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Oh, Simone Sanders.
Who's getting? So they replace one Black woman, right, with a panel of 3 people of color, right? Michael Steele, Simone Sanders, Alicia Menendez. Simone and Alicia used to have their own shows. And then you put them all together. And this is what I had some motherfucker say to me on Blue Sky. What else do you people want?
Oh, the you peoples.
Yeah. So I just want to show folks again so that you know that we're not just making things up at MSNBC. So Rebecca Cutler's first big change at MSNBC is to fire 2 women of color. This is not a good look. It couldn't be solely due to ratings because, folks, check the ratings, right? The Readout was ranked number 6 out of 15 MSNBC shows. Lost viewers as the whole network did post the election. She's at -21. I want you to look down at number 11, which is Nicole Wallace's show, Deadline White House, who has 2 hours. And what does that say, Waj? Oh, -67%. Well,
keep going down.
So then we have Ayman's show, -18%, right? You have, oh my God, Stephanie Rule, -69%, right? So, folks, what we know here, and again, all of the cuts out of MSNBC, the quote unquote shakeup, have not shaken out yet. But what Waj and I can tell you is that the people of color and Black folks that we know are gone.
They're
right?
Go.
Their shows have been canceled. And you cannot look at these numbers and say that it is purely about ratings when you can see that there are people that have been given plump spots who have been a weight on the network and on the channel.
Katie Tur?
Oh, God. Katie Tur, who Michael Cohen revealed on the stand, was providing information to her for Donald Trump in order to look favorable on air, and that he said under oath on stand, and she still has a job. Andrea Mitchell, who finally has left MSNBC but still has a post at NBC, can't manage coherent sentences and has fallen asleep on air.
Oh, has she really? I haven't seen that before.
Oh my God, Google it.
Oh, you know, Katie's husband's Tony DeCulpo at CBS, who's the one who did one versus Ta-Nehisi Coates as his two black co-hosts just sat there quietly, and he commandeered the interview and hijacked it. It seems like on behalf of Israeli talking points. Remember that a couple of months ago, right when Ta-Nehisi's book came out?
Yep.
I mean, I'm worried about Eamon. I'm worried about Ali Velshi. I'm worried about Katie Fang. Uh, I I think Cutler is going to come in and clean house. I think she's going to cut up all the people of color, mince them all together. It's, like the Constitution said before it was amended that black people are 2/3 of a person. I think in MSNBC there'll be 1/3 of a person. So you'll have a Simone Sanders and a Michael Steele, and then they'll throw in like a Latino for like another 1/3, and then that's who becomes one person of color. And it's also really look, they're not stupid, folks. This is what they did. They realized, oh shoot, if we get rid of Joy, and if the end Alex, it's not going to be lost upon people that we keep getting rid of black people and women of color. And if they get rid of Eamon and Ali or Katie, and I hope they don't, what they say is this: okay, for optics, how should we replace them? We'll get in the good whites that we want, the whites that we think the centrists, the real Americans like. So Jen Psaki is going to get elevated. There'll be Rachel got her show back, right? They'll bring in another white, a magical white, and they're like, okay, what do we do for optics? We'll give them 3. And then that way they can't accuse us of being biased. And then we'll say, what are you talking about, you angry black woman? Everything's race with you, Danielle. We gave you Michael Steele, and we gave you Simone Sanders, Alicia Menendez, and now they have plausible deniability.
And what I have to say to folks, this is why you're here, right, on YouTube, seeking out independent media, because you want the truth. You don't want people who are, placating and playing footsie with this Nazi regime and administration, in order to have some type of access, right, in order to be in the room where fascism happens. And the reality is that cable news has lost its way a long time ago. The last 10 years, they had an opportunity to act as the fourth estate and tell people the truth, and they chose not to. They chose to bend the knee. They chose to be Mika and Joe and go down to Mar-a-Lago and literally kiss the ring to Donald Trump. And so what I say to folks right now, Joy's last show airs tonight at 7 p.m.
Oh, it does. Is that confirmed?
It airs tonight. Yep. She posted it on her social media. It airs tonight at 7 p.m. I say that you watch it. And then I say you turn your TV off. These networks don't care about you. They don't care about democracy. And they damn sure do not care about Black people, people of color, Black women, Black men. And it's time. It's time that we put our eyeballs and attention elsewhere.
And I was on her show Friday night, and I texted her saying, like, did I get you fired? I hope not, because like what Danielle said, I was tired of, and I try my best never to perform, but oh, it's cable news, just like, okay. And I just said what I had to say. I don't know if you saw my clip. And people, Mago was pissed. Hit dogs holler in A minor. And then Joy's like, whatever, you have to say what you have to say. And then Joy told me, she's like, yeah, management's been after me. So I think she knew it was coming. But then Sunday, the axe came, and I was like, was it me? Because I called Donald Trump Putin's bitch. And I also said all these people of color who voted who helped Trump in the Republican Party are chickens for Colonel Sanders. And these Republicans did not like that. And was I wrong? I brought the receipts. But then this came out on Sunday, and they told, this is how bad it was. They were not informed. The press found out before Joy's team that they got canceled.
Yep.
They did it. They did Joy, who's been there for, you said what, over a decade?
Over a decade.
That's just dirty. Would they have ever done that to a Scarborough? Would they have ever done that to a Rachel Maddow? Would they have ever done that to a Nicole Wallace? Nope.
And so that's where we are. But there are people who use their platforms and their voices and their privilege and their power for good.
Some white women are bringing it.
Some white women know exactly what is up. And frankly, Jane Fonda has always known what is up. And as I have always appreciated her activism and her power and her voice. So at the SAG Awards last night, she received the Lifetime Achievement Award. And she, could have just gone up there. Thank you, Hollywood. I've had an amazing, 8-decade career, 7-decade career.
Almost 7 decades, right?
7-decade career, and it's been glitz and glam and fun. That's not what Jane Fonda used her time to do.
No mistake, empathy is not weak or woke. And by the way, woke just means you give a damn about other people.
That's just clip one of her talking about what it means to be woke, and that it has nothing to do with anything other than having empathy and giving a damn about other people. But she didn't stop there, Waj. She went on.
I'm a big believer in unions. Yeah. They have our backs. They bring us into community, and they give us power. Community means power. And this is really important right now when workers' power is being attacked and community is being weakened. Yes. But SAG-AFTRA is different than most other unions because us, the workers, we actors, we don't manufacture anything tangible. What we create is empathy.
I love that so much because what she is saying here is that what do actors do? They tell stories. They create characters that connect you to people that you may never come across in real life. But because of their ability to embody these various characters, right, and tell their stories, they open up our eyes and our hearts. And that's their job. That's what they do.
And in addition, she had so many great clips. There was one in her speech where she talks about actors in particular, and specifically, I'm glad she called out the room. She knew where she was at. She talked about McCarthyism, and she talked about the 1950s and the House of Un-American Activities, and it was specifically Hollywood. Some people in Hollywood betrayed their fellow colleagues, threw people under the bus, got people blacklisted, innocent people. But a whole bunch of folks from Hollywood use their platform to speak up, right? Like A-listers. And they went out of their way to go against McCarthyism, to not bend the knee, to not kiss the ring. And she brought up that memory in that speech. And she also said, we're in it now. This is the documentary. We're living in it. And then she also brought back history. She goes, you ever wonder what you do during Selma or Stonewall? Would you be the one who would have the dogs, and six stuck on you, or the face the water cannons? This is it. And I think that group, that privileged, pampered group of celebrities, were like, oh yeah, we're in it. And she's like we're not going to be safe. And I'm so glad she brought up McCarthyism, because Hollywood went after culture and they went after actors and they destroyed people's careers, right? And so she's telling them not to be like a Bezos, not to be like a Zuckerberg, not to be like a Mel Gibson, not to be like, who's another one? Sylvester Stallone. You have a platform. She says, you have privilege, step up and speak out. I thought it was a really powerful speech, which is why it was trending and MAGA got really pissed off.
Speaking of another white woman who's using her voice and her power and spoke up to Donald Trump to his face.
Nice.
Governor Mills out of Maine. Donald Trump, I don't even want to play the clip, honestly, because I don't feel like hearing
don't play
voice.
The clip. Forget him.
I don't feel like hearing his voice. Donald Trump has, and MAGA, spent $200 million attacking 1% of the population, trans people. Not the 1% that is actually fucking up your life and your livelihood. Not that 1%. He let them into the White House and let them into our most secret data and information.
I think there's 13 billionaires in his administration. 13, yeah, or more than a dozen.
I actually think that I think it's more. I think it's more than that. So he says, I put out an executive order to put a ban on trans women from joining sports, and the NCAA immediately followed my instructions. Is the governor of Maine here? And she said, yep, right here. And he goes, you said that you're not going to comply. And she said, nah, I'll see you in court. So he was addressing the Democratic Republican governors at the White House. And, the media, once again, the confrontation occurred. He called her out singled her out in a room full of her colleagues and said, are you going to do what I tell you to do? And she said, I'll do what the law tells me to do. And then has gone on to say that and he said, I'm going to defund your state. And she said, I'll see you in court.
You better, because you're not going to get federal funding. He goes, I'll see you in court. Yeah, I'll see you there. Okay, yeah. And guess what? Yeah, you have an election coming up. It was like a mob boss taking down a governor of the United States in public. And we're supposed to take this as normal. And I love the fact you can't mess around with her. She knows the law. She kept quiet. She goes, I'm going to follow law. He goes, yeah, I'm going to try to shake you down. I'll see you in court. And she was saying some other stuff. Mother.
And, one of the other things she said was, okay, Donald Trump wants to defund my state, then we won't pay federal taxes.
Blue states give more than red states.
And I said, you know what? These blue state governors need to link arms and be like, if he comes for one of us, he is coming for all of us. And if we don't pay the federal taxes because he's not going to provide us with disaster relief, he's not going to provide us with public education funds, he's not going to provide us with infrastructure funds. If he's going to weaponize, taxpayer dollars, then we ain't paying. Get your fucking money from Kentucky. And see how that works. Get it from Alabama. Get it from Mississippi.
And also, look, California, my home state, just suffered some of the most devastating fires. And even now, as of last week, Donald Trump is going to make aid conditional, he said, just to punish California. I agree with you. Illinois, Massachusetts, California, all these bluish states need to link arms as a firewall, just like Europe is creating a firewall to protect itself from Trump. But notice, Danielle, it is women with the chutzpah, with the spine, with the boldness, with the bluntness, who are stepping up forcefully to Donald Trump. It is not lost upon me. And it was the last thing I said on Joy's show on Friday night. She goes, who won the week? I said, Democratic women. And I mentioned this governor, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Senator Warren. And there was two more we should have mentioned, but it was Friday and this happened on the weekend.
But one more that I'm going to mention is Kamala Harris, former vice president, received her chairmanship award from the NAACP over the weekend at the NAACP Image Awards. She received a standing ovation, right? And people on social media, white people in particular, have been calling on her to do something. And I'm like, didn't she call on y'all to do something? Right? And you decided, I don't know if she's black enough. I don't know if she's Asian enough. I don't know if she's a cop. I don't know if she really supports Palestine. I don't know this and I don't know that. But this is what she offered. Because once again, it is always going to be women. And before we get out of here today.
Well, it could have been her. It could have been her. And America's like, nope, no, we want a convicted criminal and a man who raped and defamed a woman and incited a violent insurrection, because we can't handle a black Indian woman telling us what to do. And so we're going to destroy ourselves instead. And also one more, I want to give a shout out to one more white woman, Senator Tina Smith from Minnesota.
Yes.
On February 22nd, Saturday, this is her exact tweet. She quote tweets Elon Musk. Elon Musk, who, by the way, we found out from the Trump administration and a court filing, has no official role, does not head Doge. According to Donald Trump's administration, when Donald Trump was asked twice, who is this man who's destroying this world? What's his title? And Donald Trump said, Patriot. I prefer to call him Patriot. So Elon Musk did this tweet, consistent with President Donald Trump's instructions, all federal employees will shortly receive an email requesting to understand what they got done last week. Failure to respond will be taken as resignation. And Senator Tina Smith, who gives 0 Fs now because I don't think she's running again, from Minnesota, she said, quote, this is the ultimate dick boss move from Musk. except he isn't even the boss. He's just a dick. Senator Tina Smith, Democratic Senator of Minnesota. Meanwhile, you got Chuck Schumer saying, American people are aroused. They're getting aroused. And Jerry Connolly doesn't know how to use Zoom.
Yeah.
Step up, man.
Here's a man to close us out who did step up because his country understands what fascism looks like. And they've been there before. And that would be Frederick Merz, who just won in a coalition vote, the Christian Democratic group, as well as the Conservatives formed a coalition to beat out the hard right Alternative for Germany, who J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, Elon Musk were all promoting this Nazi fascist party that ended up coming in second because of the coalition that was formed. But this is what the new chancellor said about the United States. And I want folks to really take this in. I never thought I would have to say something like that on a TV program. But after Donald Trump's latest comments in the last week, it is clear that the Americans, or at least this portion of the Americans, this government, care very little about the fate of Europe. The chancellor in waiting told a televised roundtable of leaders. And he went on to say in that interview that Europe was going to have to figure out how to be independent of the United States, because it is clear that the United States is no longer an ally of Europe.
Sit with that, folks. Sit with that. The post-World War II order completely upended, which was Putin's dream. Putin's great trauma in life, he said, was the dissolution of the USSR. He wanted to weaken and wants to weaken the US and Europe and make Russia great again. He does not care about Republicans or MAGA or Democrats. He hates America, but he's found a patsy, a puppet, in the form of Donald Trump. And they're trying to recreate an axis of fascists. Meloni's Italy, AFD in Germany that thankfully lost, the Le Pen's party in France, Reform UK, Geert Wilders in Netherlands, and Putin and Trump. This is where we're at, folks. It's a brave new world, for better and for worse. We have to hold strong. It's the great resegregation, the comeback of fascism. We just have to hold it at bay. And some breaking news before we end. NBC just lost another black anchor. Lester Holt to step down as anchor of NBC Nightly News. He said he would leave the daily news show at the start of the summer. NBC did not immediately name a successor. So you better believe there's some white NBC execs drooling right now. Like, yes, we get to replace all the blacks with whites.
Wow. Well, before we close out today on Democracy-ish, friends, remember, this is the time. Corporate mainstream media has shown their full selves, have shown their full ass to the world over the last decade, but most importantly, over this last critical election, when they had the opportunity to stand up and be the fourth estate and educate the people. They decided once again that Donald Trump was good for ratings. Fuck the country. So if you care about the news, you care about media, you care about democracy, please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Support Waj's Left Hook on Substack. Subscribe, support, do the most. We appreciate it so very much. Thank you for listening to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moodie.
And I'm Wajahat Ali, and I can't be canceled because I'm not hired by anyone.
We will be back on Friday, folks, 12 p.m. Eastern and live. We will see you then, if in fact we have a country left. Inshallah.